Welcome back. Elon Musk dropping 2023's first two Twitter files, this time revealing how the FBI and other government agencies dug deep into Twitter to become the main arm of its content moderation team. Journalist Matt Taibbi reporting on the, quote, PR crisis Twitter underwent in 2017. Democrats and the media went after the site, claiming it wasn't doing enough to investigate Russian influence on the app after the 2016 election. Joining me now is NetChoice Vice President and General Counsel and George Mason University Scalia Law School Professor of Internet Law, Carl Szabo. Carl, good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us. Your reaction to the latest information that we've received on Twitter.
Thanks for having me on, Jackie. Look, the bombshells just keep dropping, and this latest one is continuing to be scary. What we have seen throughout all of these Twitter files is a continued effort by government to control social media. And in these latest files, we've seen an effort by government to turn social media into its mouthpiece and promote the Russian hoax story that followed us around for years. This is something we can't allow to happen. We cannot allow government to seize control of social media. Now, let's remember, social media has been incredibly important. Imperfect as it has given a voice to many of us to have discussions that most in the mainstream don't want to have. It allowed us to have discussions of whether lockdowns of our kids is good for them. It allowed us to discuss alternative medications for COVID. Heck, it even allowed libs of TikTok to exist. And this is the type of thing that really scares government, really scares Democrats, is they are losing control of the message, they are losing control of the media, and they are letting the silent majority have a voice and expose some of the discussions that the Democrats and those in big government don't want to have. And that's what we continue to learn from all of these Twitter files.
Carl, another files dump, if we call it that, yesterday showing how Democrat Congressman Adam Schiff's office directly requested that Twitter censor certain accounts for allegedly harassing Schiff's staffers. Your reaction to that?
You know, if somebody harasses my staff, I will probably get on the horn and call somebody up. But this kind of underscores kind of the dangerous relationship we're seeing between government and social media, where they can just pick up a phone and have somebody shut down. Now, if there's harassment, yeah, that's probably a violation of the Twitter terms of service. But what I am more concerned with is when we see efforts by what the other files showed, which is that the government was trying to use Twitter to promote the hoax. Now, fortunately, we are seeing solutions on the Hill as well. We are seeing Republicans in the House, like Jim Jordan, put forth legislation to make it illegal for the government to engage in the type of coercion these files are showing. We're seeing the creation of a new select committee on the weaponization of government against the American people. So I look forward to the new speaker getting seated and the investigations and legislation we're going to see in the House.
Yeah, it's also like willful rule breaking, because there are measures that those staffers could have taken to report the tweets and have the company look at them. I've been harassed on Twitter and I've done that. Some of the stuff has been removed. Some of the people have been suspended, but that the person do it themselves, not have the office call on their behalf. Carl, also Elon Musk teasing the release of the, quote, Fauci files later this week. Those are thought to focus on how Twitter censored information that was surrounding COVID-19 and some of the related policies. Your reaction to this one?
Yeah, this is going to be probably one of the most sensational of them all. Kind of tell us all what we've kind of known for a while. It's that when somebody was talking about alternative forms of medication, alternative lab leak theories, and all the discussions that Fauci didn't want to have, the government was leaning on social media to keep those stories at bay, to suppress those stories like they did with the Hunter Biden laptop in one of the earlier Twitter file releases. And this is all going to just show how dangerous it is to let government get in bed with social media. And this is kind of one of the things that really scares me, one of the things that gets me out of bed every day, which is to fight against this type of government control of free speech, because social media is one of the greatest tools that we now have to get information to people, get discussions happening that is not happening in the mainstream media, and get discussions happening that the administration doesn't want. So we need to support Congress in making sure that we take away power from the government, not give it more power, and hold this administration accountable for the actions against the American people and the violations of our First Amendment protections.
Carl, how does Section 230 immunity survive any of this? I mean, literally any of the topics that we just discussed.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So Section 230, I like to describe as one of the most misunderstood pieces of legislation. And it's actually the law that makes it possible to have these alternative views, to have these new ideas discussed on social media. And the elimination of Section 230 will actually make it harder for new ideas to come about and get promoted and get the opportunity to have a platform. Now, rather than focusing on Section 230, I want to focus on the solutions we have before us, which is getting in touch with the Department of Homeland Security, calling before Congress, the FBI, and getting more information from people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg on how the Biden administration has been leaning on social media to promote or remove content that the Biden administration doesn't want. So I'd rather focus on those solutions than talk about removing Section 230, which is something being promoted by the Biden administration, by people like Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat from Minnesota, because they know if we eliminate Section 230, it will eliminate these alternative theories, these new voices, and things like libs of TikTok maybe won't be able to exist without Section 230.
Okay, Carl, let's say 230 stands. I agree with you on the value of this law. It says that the social media companies can enjoy a safe harbor to take down objectionable content as long as they are not functioning as publishers, as long as they are functioning as an open platform. It seems to me in this case, in many cases, as we look at the Twitter files, they weren't. So if sued by someone saying you unfairly silenced me, would their defense be the government made me do it?
You know, thanks for the question. There's actually a case right now out in California. It's this guy called Changizi suing the Department of Health and Human Services because his account was taken out. And NetChoice filed an amicus brief on that case. And to the extent that the government is forcing these platforms to remove content, that is really dangerous. And what we're seeing in that case and in many other suits being brought by state attorneys generals is that we need to get to the heart of how much the government has been forcing social media to remove content. And if the government has been doing that, the next question is, how do we get them removed? And James, your paper's done a great job at highlighting this level of government coercion against social media. And that's what we really need to do, is we need to bring that to the forefront of people's minds and remind them that the American government works for all American people, not the political party, not the family that's sitting in the White House today. And so I think that we're going to see great steps forward from Jim Jordan, from James Comer, from Kathy McMorris Rodgers, great Republicans in the House in holding this administration finally to account on how much it has forced, coerced, removed, and promoted content that they don't want.
Carl Szabo, thank you so much. Great to see you this morning. Good stuff.